Hello everyone, welcome to Render Time. Here we chat with video creators about their worst and best projects and everything that happened in between. My name is Sean McDaniel, and today I am speaking with Jason Druss, a colorist who found his tribe in product marketing. Jason Druss, welcome, my friend. So good to have you on the show. How are things? How are you doing?
Thank you for having me on your podcast. This is a delight. It's a dream come true. I always thought I'd get here one day, and I just love looking at your face and hanging out and talking. I'm doing well. It's a beautiful Monday morning. Spring is around the corner. It's full spring here in New Jersey. It's like 70 degrees outside right now.
You know, I think anything in the 70s range is just beautiful. Like anywhere you're at, 70, sunny sky, just beautiful. You can't really complain.
Yeah, it's ideal. How are you doing? How's everything in LA, where you guys are known for having really terrible weather?
You know, honestly, the last few weeks it's been pretty nice. You know, we got a downpour of rain, but you know what's really been nice about the rain though is that we have, you know, hills everywhere, and they're all green and lush and beautiful. So driving around is like, it's almost like being in Ireland a little bit in some spots. I mean, you know, you're still in LA, but some spots it's just absolutely beautiful. The rain just came in, made everything kind of bloom out. So it's really quite gorgeous out. So it's been a little hot though last couple of days. I'll tell you that.
I believe it. Well, it's March, so it must be a scorcher.
It's March. Yeah, definitely a scorcher for people in the valley. So people that are LA natives or understand LA, the valley can be a little bit hotter than Hollywood or the city itself. But anyway, who are you, Jason? I think our audience is going to want to know who you are, what you do. Let's do the rundown. Tell us about yourself.
I was just staring at myself in the bathroom mirror last night, asking myself, who am I, for like many hours. I was not expecting that question. My name is Jason Druss. I am a principal product marketing manager at Adobe. I work on Premiere and After Effects, one of the coolest and most awesome video editing and motion design apps that you can find. And I am absolutely 1,000% in love with it, in love with the app, my job, our users. And product marketing is a really, really interesting profession that I didn't know about until I applied for my first product marketing job. But before I got into creative tech and before I got into product marketing, I was a film colorist for a really long time, for about 15 years. I was a colorist at NFL Films and a senior colorist at Warner Media before the Discovery came in, before they were Warner Brothers Discovery.
Well, you know, I love it. Obviously I work for Adobe as well, so we share in a lot of that, but I want to talk to Jason, the creator. You know, I know your background as a colorist. I want to dig into a little bit about what you've done as a colorist, but you've also been kind of cranking on social media. You know, obviously talking a lot about Adobe products, but you know, you've got a great family. You're looping into a lot of your videos, but also you're just cranking out content like crazy. So how are you kind of balancing your work that you do at Adobe and still maintaining you as a content creator? And you've got a few big hits too that popped up recently. So tell me a little about that.
Thank you. Complete accidents. Couldn't do it again if I tried. I hope it happens again. There are no promises. But yeah, something like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 months ago, I just, I started making a couple of videos and I decided I wanted to make more content. You know, like most of us, I had really big dreams of being a filmmaker when I was a kid, you know, and I'd have either like my dad's like mini DV camera or the cameras I bought in college. I would just make all the time, just for the sake of making and practicing and learning. I'd force my family members and my friends to be in my little movies. I would be just obsessed with the act of editing and color grading, and just figuring out how to make everything a little bit better. And like this was like the early 2000s where like nothing looked good. It cost an insane amount of money for things to look good. So how can you hack the system, and how can you shoot in a way that affords you the most amount of latitude in post to make things look good? And for years, until I was like in my early 20s, mid 20s, before I started really just like switching over to color grading for most of my energy, I was just making. And somewhere along the line, it's just crazy easy to lose track of that. You know, I just totally lost track of it. I lost track of that part of myself that I loved as a young person. And now in my like mid 30s, I was just like, you know what? If I don't start just making videos now, I never will. So I should just do it. And unlike like the aspirational goals and dreams of like a young man or a kid trying to like make it somewhere in some industry, I started making content just to tell stories and just to make stuff because I liked it. And I thought it was funny, or I thought it was interesting, and just putting it out there, you know, regardless of the repercussions or what people think of it. If you like it, that's cool. If you don't, there's so much stuff out there. But I just wanted to get back in touch with that version of myself that just made things to just make things. So that's what I like to do. I like to post, obviously, a lot of Premiere tutorials because it's my jam.
Of course.
I like to post a lot of, I'm really into iPhone cinematography. I think it's absolutely mind-blowing how we can shoot ProRes RAW on our iPhones. And I have big crazy rigs. I have really lightweight rigs. And I like to push the limit of what's capable with shooting on the iPhone. And then I shoot everything in Log and Apple Log 2 in ProRes RAW or ProRes. I bring it into Premiere, do all my color and finishing and grading and polishing and editing. And I try to make the best possible output. Sometimes I'm using desktop. Sometimes I'm using Premiere on iPhone, which is really cool because you can add the LUTs now. So there's really like no limitations in terms of visual quality of what you can or can't do on that little mobile app. And you have this stuff and it's just, you're shooting on the phone and you're editing on the phone and then you're sharing on the phone. It's so much fun. But also I like to make videos about career progression and about being seen and heard and valued at work, finding new ways to express yourself better at work through creativity, being strategic, honing in on presentation skills, and getting to where you want to be in your life and your career. I just think back to all the mentors and folks who helped me along the way. And if there's bits of information that I wish I had when I had a certain challenge in my career, even up until recently, sometimes I just make videos about it. And I just started dipping my toe into vibe coding. Like, this is very new, like as of like a couple weeks ago. So that's like the train now. So I think I might just like document my progress and journey as someone who absolutely sucks at AI and hasn't used it for much more than like just LLM conversations and a little bit of generative who's a what's it every now and then. I want to get into, you know, documenting that journey too and see if I can make cool stuff that way.
Well, there's definitely a lot to unpack there, but I want to go back. You said a couple key things, and one trigger that always pops up in my mind, because you're talking about iPhones and how quick, like it's a filmmaking tool right in your pocket. But I think about the mini DV days, and you brought up mini DV and how you used to make movies when you were a kid. I want to know more about that because that's my wheelhouse. I mean, I think you and I were roughly around the same age, so we probably made the same kind of stuff. I had a DVX100, the Panasonic one, and 24p Advance was like the way to shoot. If you want to make it look like a movie, that's how you do it. What did you shoot with? What was your plan of action back when in the mini DV days?
You know, I had some rinky-dink Sony whatever that I owned in high school, and in high school,
PD150 or something like that. What was the name of it? Or VX2000?
Oh no, it wasn't one of the good ones. It's like one of the ones that you would not like. One of the like palm handheld like family camcorder.
Oh, okay. I had one of those. Okay.
Yeah, I ran around with the XL2 in high school. You got to the lab level, or you put in the hours where they let you take out the XL2. That you know, the 28 days later one with the 24p. But my freshman year of college, my parents were like, "Hey, we didn't let you spend your bar mitzvah money for a reason. Now you're 18. Now it's yours. It's your bar mitzvah money." So I bought a Canon XH-A1, their HDV camcorder.
Yes. Oh, so you went right into HD. There was like HD mini DV, right?
Yeah, they called it HDV. I didn't know why. And like, you're gonna have to fact check me, but it turns out it's something like, it wasn't 720p, it wasn't 1080, it was some weird 1440 by 1080 who's a what's it, and they would stretch it or do something to get 1080p output. But
I remember that camera because they had special tapes too, didn't they?
They did, but that was a ripoff. You didn't need to use the special tapes. You could still use the regular mini DV tapes. There was absolutely no difference. I could tell you that.
Oh, clever, man. They're clever.
And I would just load up Apple Color, Final Cut 7, and just go to town. Yeah.
Remember the color app Apple made, the actual separated color app?
Yeah. Apple Color was an amazing application. I loved it. It was
love
the
that
first real
tool.
color app I ever used. It was so much fun. It separated your primaries from your secondaries. There was good back and forth with Final Cut Pro back then. It looked cool. Yeah, it was nice. Some of my first color gigs I ever did, I color graded like a really, really bad independent feature film. And I went in my college's lab and just stayed overnight, and we just use Apple Color on the school lab and just did it that way.
What kind of movies did you make with your mini DV? What did you rope your family into?
Some of the worst shit you've ever seen, man. Some of the really bad, gnarly stuff. Let's see. The first was just home movies with my cousins. We would make little horror movie spoofs on like summer vacations. And then like my friends and I were playing basketball, and it was like, okay, we're going to make a basketball movie. And I'd pull out my camera and do something like that. But when I was in high school, there was this program called the New Jersey Governor School of the Arts. It was like this conservatory program where they take writers and actors and musicians and filmmakers and, artists and animators. And they put all of us in the College of New Jersey the summer between junior and senior year of high school for a month. And they picked 10 film kids to be in there. I was one of the 10 film kids, and I met a lot of close friends that I'm still close friends with today. And we got to all of a sudden shoot 16 reversal on Bolex and Super 16, and we got the film developed. And 17-year-old, we got to cut on the Steenbeck flatbed editing machine.
Steenbeck.
Yeah.
Steenbeck. Yeah.
Yeah.
The flatbeds, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was my first time ever like in a studio working with like real lighting, and we divvy up, okay, who's directing, who's production designing, who's costuming, who's writing, who's editing. And we actually broke their whole computer lab.
Oh no.
Yeah. They told us not to, like, we needed all this storage because we made this big, like 20-minute documentary, and we were daisy chaining hard drives and computers together, and they told us not to, but we did it anyway. And there were those like the Lasay, like big, thick, beefy silver hard drives, like 2 FireWire 400 ports. So you kind of like daisy chain them. We daisy chained
drives
computers together. Yeah, we crashed like the whole lab, and we got in a lot of trouble. That was fun. And I think that was the point where I was like, okay, I can start to actually study and learn this and try to take it seriously.
Well, could you daisy chain like up to like 5 drives? Well, then weren't they made to daisy chain in that sort of way? Or was it like, did you guys just like totally push the limits?
We totally pushed the limits. Irresponsible teenagers that had no idea what we were doing and no concept of consequences or how much things cost or anything like that. And we just broke the computer lab once. Yeah.
That's really funny. What was probably, I'm going back to the family thing because I so many stories of like pulling in friends and family to do stuff. I always try to get my mom into my little mini DV movies, and she'd be like, I want to be in your films. But the minute the camera would start rolling or I turn the camera to her, like in a shot, she would just start cracking up. She could not like keep a straight face. She's just like, this is so ridiculous, but it's fun. But she's just like blooper city. So I'm just curious, did you rope in any of your family members to do anything funny or like outrageous, or like, were they like, well, I don't want to make another movie? Like, how were you wrangling up people at the time? It's hard when you're a kid, you're not taken seriously and you think you're Spielberg in some sort of way, but I don't know, any fun anecdotes there? I'd love to see.
Well, I was really lucky to have like a really supportive family. Yeah. And I would just make it the fun activity. Like, this is the thing that we're doing. We're going to do a fun, silly activity together, versus like, I was probably my first lesson in positioning, but instead of asking for a chore to help me to make my movie, it's a fun activity that we're all going to do together. And then, over the years, we'd make them like violent for no reason. And we got into like, biting on blood capsules and all the FX makeup and stuff like that. And then it became like, oh, well, next year when we go back to summer vacation house, like what can we do then? How can we up it? So it was just one of those things.
You said that you wanted to be a filmmaker, and this happens to a lot of creatives, and I feel like there's a little bit of meat here, because a lot of us, we wanted to make it to Hollywood, we wanted to be film directors or work in the industry in some strong capacity, but life changes. Where do you think the idea of what you expected to be as a filmmaker or wanted to be as a filmmaker pivoted to where you're at now? And what's something that, like, one takeaway from your childhood making mini DV movies did you learn from to apply to what you're doing now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is simple. I realized I was really bad at like directing, you know? And then you'd sit and you'd think about what you want to do and what you're good at and what you can do. And I'd realized that I would shoot as fast as I possibly can. And I would shoot sloppy.
Yeah.
Because all I really wanted to do was get back to my MacBook because I just wanted to edit and I wanted to color.
Mm.
And then, you know, going back to something I said before, like, you know, the technology was okay, but not great. It was all about how great is your workflow? How great can you control the variables and make it as good as possible, like in post? I just realized like that's where I gravitated towards. That's where my skills were developing, and that's where I found opportunities, and that's where I went into. And there were two moments in my life where I had a crisis of faith. Another callback, like looking at myself in the mirror, being like, "Who am I?" Two moments in my life, and one of them was when I realized that I was going to become a colorist come hell or high water. And the second one is when I decided to completely leave that career behind and pivot overnight into product marketing.
What is it about color that you love so much?
It's like, it's impossible to talk about it without like being romantic, because it's a very romantic craft, right?
Bro, let's get romantic.
Romantic. Wait, it's not, we got any candles? No. So like first things first, to this day, there's something special about color grading. There's this Wizard of Oz type magic to it, where when you're working with a good colorist and you see a good colorist, you know, working the panels, even if they're just on a keyboard and mouse, you see it come together. You see that transformation from log to 709 to this gorgeous look. And there's just something magical about it. The ability to technically make things match, make everything align, correct mistakes, fix problems, and then to be such a key creative stakeholder between the director and the cinematographer and the producer to realize their vision and bring it to life at the pure intersection of art and science. It's a magnificent craft. And then I also realized colorists get paid the most. And that was fun too. And I was like, oh, that's not bad. I'll do this. But I started running with it in 2009, 2010 is when I really decided like, okay, like this is what I'm going to do. And then just kind of willed the rest into existence.
Is there a moment that you realize that you're like, color is my thing? There's a moment where you're like, this might be where I want to go with my career, or I really like color. Is there a pivotal moment where you were like, this is, even when you were shooting back in the old days, like anything popped up, you're like, that was where I enjoyed color?
Yeah. A student called me up out of the blue when I was also a student and asked if they could pay me to color their like senior thesis film. I was like, what? Okay. I didn't have a laptop at that time powerful enough for it. So I asked my friend Maggie if she had a really good laptop, if I could crash at her place, but not crash, but just work all night at her desk. And I brought over a case of beer, and she said, okay. And she just let me sit in her living room all night, and I color graded this short film. And then I saw the sun coming up, and I was just like, this is awesome. This is so much fun. This is it. I got to do this. And then ran with it from there.
All right, so let's move forward in your career. In the light of the show, it's about a worst and best project. So let's talk about your worst. And again, this isn't about anybody in particular. It's about you creatively not achieving the creative goal you're trying to achieve. Tell me about it. Let's break it down.
When I was 21 or 22, at that time, I was still dipping my toes into cinematography, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole problem with my mindset was this is the same reason I dropped out of college when I did my first go around at trying to do college, is that I thought I knew everything. And I thought my shit didn't stink. And I thought it's any day now, someone's going to call me and just take me straight to the stratosphere because because, you know, and like, obviously, clearly, like, that didn't happen. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like that. And I just completely bypassed these opportunities to go through things through the proper channels, become a production assistant, get an internship, do A, B, C, or D, you know, acquire mentorships of people who are, you know, prominent cinematographers. I didn't do any of that. So this guy calls me out of the blue, and no, he doesn't call me out of the blue. It was a Craigslist ad. I responded to an ad on Craigslist looking for a cinematographer for feature film, Philadelphia, paid. And I responded to it. I sent my demo reel, which was mostly just footage of me messing around that I, you know, color graded, and called me and hired me. He offered me $100 a day. No limit to how long a day could be, $100 a day. And he'd give
12-hour days, 14.
Yeah, 14, 16. And he gave me budget to rent 2 light kits, 2 Arri Fresnel lighting kits. And I negotiated for an extra set of Roscoe light pads because those were real new and hot at the time, and I love those lights. I lost one off of a speedboat, but the director was this insane guy who had the same delusions of grandeur that I did, but as a director. And it was this guy, and his brother like had a very successful business, and I could tell from the first day I got there, this guy clearly just fished like 75 grand off of his brother, and his brother's letting him just like do this little pet project, and all the local like union like Philly actors that will do anything, some really good like character actors, they were all there because they're like, oh, it's like the SAG minimum, whatever, I'll sit here. And it was a disaster. It was the worst shoot ever. Someone almost died at one point, or we prevented near death from happening. We were on this like rickety boat in the middle of the bay outside Delaware. And this was like a mob movie. It was like a guy wanted to make Goodfellas or something like that. And it was just a camcorder and a couple light kits and just like a bunch of like misfits and this guy and members of his family trying to like make a movie. And we're on this boat. And it's like, okay, this is the scene where like Tommy like kills Bobby because like Bobby like took his money or didn't pay him back or something. This is an execution scene.
A mob thing. Yeah.
A mob thing. So we're on the boat and they're supposed to be going fishing and they're drinking beers, and the guy pulls out a knife and like, you know, takes care of the other guy. And I'm like, hey, I'm asking the director, when do we, where's the prop weapon? I want to take a look at it. I want to try to stage out. And he goes, there's no prop weapon. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he reaches in his bag and he pulls out this knife. He pulls out this giant knife. This is a big knife, like a hunting knife, a butcher block hunting knife. And he's just like, this is what we're going to get the 2 actors really, really close together. And he's going to go like this. And when he gets right here, he's going to go off to the side. And I'm like, dude, we're on a tiny little shaky little like sailboat.
And you're on a boat. Exactly.
5 people on it, like, and a cooler of drinks. And he's like, do it. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I refuse to roll camera. And even some of the actors were like, come on, man, it's going to be fine. We're trying to make a movie. What are you doing here? And I'm like, guys, like,
you're going to get stabbed.
They're going to kill each other over like the worst movie ever made in production.
Okay. So was this a feature or a short? What was this movie?
This was a feature film.
Oh,
there were
$100
like,
a day? Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. There were like 60 shooting days for this thing. All on weekends over the course of like 6 months to a year or something.
Wow.
Sometimes we shoot 3 days in a row. But at the end of the day, I did put the camera down and he put the knife away, and we staged it and blocked it so that through perspective, we got a B-roll shot of the knife. And then, you know, he went like this, but it was just his hand, but you couldn't tell. And then we cut away, and the director was like really, really upset. And then he tried to fire me. And I was like, you can do whatever you want, man. I'm just trying to help you out, make your movie. I'm trying to make a movie too. The actors were like, come on, man. He was trying to do the same.
Somebody to die in the process. I mean,
it was filmed some of the most awful, graphic, intimate scenes you can imagine. And we're all just, yeah, it was a bad movie. It never came out. Never came out.
Is it anywhere to see? Like, I'd be so curious.
It doesn't live anywhere. Thank God. Yeah. Yeah, like it didn't even make it to like IMDb. It's just yeah.
It's on somebody's hard drive somewhere.
It's on some hard drive somewhere. I think that was also like a catalyst moment where I was like, I am not cut out for this, and also like this isn't real. Like this isn't a real movie. I'm not a real person working on a real project. This is a invisible spinning hamster wheel leading to nowhere. I gotta like go home and rethink my life and like reassess some things. I think that's also one where I was like, you know what, you're gonna stick with the color and you're gonna do that because that seems to be going okay, and you'll grow there.
So this was a defining project to make you go into a totally different career set.
There was one more after that, which is probably one of my favorite projects I ever worked on because I shot it and then it didn't go anywhere for like 6 or 7 years. It sat in a vault, but by that time I was an actual real colorist and I ended up coming back and grading that movie. That was a documentary called The Last Ride about 5 dirt bike riders in South Philly, which was a really crazy project to shoot that took like 2 years to shoot. And that was a really incredible, rewarding experience. But after those 2 projects, I threw the towel in on my production career, if you could even call it that.
Oh no, I mean it's fine. I mean you can call it that. I mean 60 days on this project. That's a very ambitious project for what they were trying to do. Did they do it in the 60? Did you guys finish it in the 60 days, or did it get expanded, or
something like that? It got the string became very, very like frazzled by the end of it. And I think by the end of it, we technically like didn't shoot like 10 pages of it or whatever, but it was never shot. And I don't even know if there was a timeline put together. Like, I don't know.
Did you ever see the final project? Did they ever have any kind of screening? I mean, did it ever get done? Like, or were you like, the minute you're done shooting, you're like, I'm out, I'm done with this?
There was a screening. I was not invited to it. The director was very upset that I stopped him from fake stabbing that guy with that knife, with that very real knife. And
I mean, what was this angle he wanted? I mean, what was he? I mean, it's one thing to like stop shooting because you're, either being a diva or whatever, you're being complicated. But I mean, you're focused on safety here. But like, what compelling shot because you obviously compromised because you're like, well, we did it a different way. But what was this amazing shot he thought he was going to get with this real knife that was going to make or break this movie?
I don't know, and I never will know. And this is also a time in my life where I learned some questions don't have answers, don't have good answers at least. And I didn't lose a wink of sleep on trying to figure out what the answer to that terrible question was. We had other tips throughout also, insisting that we get some food, things like that.
Yeah,
there was no OSHA to call. There's no union to call. It's just a bunch of bozos, knuckleheads, and jabronis trying to like make a little movie.
That's freaking funny. How many people were on the crew? Was it a big crew?
No, it was like 3 people. It was like me, a sound guy, and I had someone like help with lighting.
Well, at least they had sound, thankfully. At least there's some audio in there. Well, thank you for sharing that story. I'm sure, I've had a lot of those. I did a fight scene once with a knife. It was like a letter opener knife, and it was so dumb. We didn't even like practice the fight scene. It was so bad. So I've been in that spot. I've made those stupid decisions, but good on you for not rolling the camera at me. I was like, oh, well, I'm the one that's going to get stabbed. So I'll do it. So, all right. So we're going to pivot. We're going to move on to your best project. Let's talk about that.
Do I have to pick a project or can I just pick a job?
You could do whatever you want, man. I mean, even if you have a couple different gigs. I mean, look, this whole show, it's about the journey. And
it's about the journey.
It's about the journey. It's the creative journey. I don't even like talking tech on this show. I like talking about the journey. So if you got a couple things, like as a colorist, as a cinematographer, or even as a marketing person, like this is a job of a creative, and I want to hear about that.
I think my favorite project is probably color grading the Super Bowl.
Which Super Bowl?
Which Super Bowl was it?
I know. I'm asking you.
This 2019. Yeah, February 2019 must have been. Yeah.
Was that the Katy Perry one? Was that Left Shark, Right Shark, or was that earlier than that?
Super Bowl 2019. Patriots and Rams. Patriots took it 13-3. Not a very exciting game, sounds like. It was, you know, my whole experience at NFL Films was really what like I think like made me a real colorist, like a professional colorist, where I like and that Super Bowl was one of the craziest nights working ever. And I'll never forget it. And it was so much fun. It was like it was a party. And everything about color grading at NFL is one of the most extreme and intense and laborious like color grading workflows like on the planet. It's actually it's fascinating. Have I ever told you how it works?
No, tell me. I want to know.
Okay. So, you've got every NFL stadium in the country has a dark fiber connection to NFL Films headquarters, which is in New Jersey, South Jersey, more specifically outside of Philly, because the Sable family that started NFL Films, they just happened to be from Jersey, and that's where they made their headquarters. So it's this like little production and post oasis in the middle of this office park, and it's very unassuming. You walk in, and it's one of the most glorious, beautiful studios, production facilities, and post facilities you've ever seen. And you'd walk in the heyday of film, there's this big, huge glass wall in the lobby, and you'd walk in as a kid when I would take field trips there at school, and you'd see all the people in their lab coats taking the film and scanning the film and developing the film. Now it's all digital, so there's just tarps on top of everything. It's kind of sad when you walk in. But every stadium has a dark fiber connection to NFL Films, and they use Arri Alexa cameras, and they have somewhere between, based on the game, 3 to 20 cameras covering one game, and the camera operators are recording every second from like an hour pre-game to like an hour post-game. And you have a ground camera, you have a top camera, and you have a slow motion camera. And then on popular games that have more drama throughout the season or rivalries, you have one camera that will follow a coach or a player mic'd up the entire game. You'll have more than one top or ground cameras. And as the footage rolls into NFL Film Studio, they had us on, DaVinci Resolve advanced panels, like the really big ones. There was 8 of us on these systems, each of us with like Flanders Scientific and like a whole real proper setup. And we had 4 assistants between the 8 of us. And what you had to do is you had to do a grade on every single frame of every single shot from every single camera. And you had to do 2 or 3 games in one night. So it was like a 2 p.m. to 4 a.m. workflow. An overnight workflow. So when all the studios and everyone wakes up on Monday morning, they have this beautiful, magnificent, gorgeous NFL slow motion cinematic footage that they've been famous for the past like 50, 60 years, more than that. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. The problem is, the hard thing is these football players, based on the stadium you're at, they're running in and out of shadows caused by the sun moving throughout the game. And you have to keep everything matching. And as these guys are running in and out of the shadows, sometimes you're dealing with 6, 7 stops of exposure differences multiple times in one shot. And you have to keyframe and ride those and deal with that over and over and over again for like 14 hours straight. And then just keeping everything matching as the sun and the light is shifting was a real challenge. But there were these folks that work there who have been doing like old school telecine color grading since like the 1980s. Mm-hmm. And they've been doing it for like 40 years, and they can just see any footage that looks like the worst thing you've ever seen, and they'll just go and it's fixed, and they mentored me. They taught me everything I know. And you'd take a break and you'd go into their pod, see how they're doing, and you'd shoot the shit, and you'd order pizza and order drinks and stuff, and it was just a lot of fun. And working at NFL Films for that year and a half, and also working on a lot of the highlight films for a lot of the teams, I'd say that was my general favorite experience. But the coolest thing was my supervisor, who's another one of my mentors, Chris Pepperman. He leads color at NFL Films and has for like a very long time. He hired me, and he saw how like hungry I was and how excited I was, and he's like, "Listen, we got this 7-year-long project where restoring and rescanning and regrading every single frame of film that has ever been shot at this place. We have this giant warehouse, and we have enough film to last us 8 years of regrading. So anytime, day or night, if you want to shift and if you want to pick up some hours, you just scan your badge in, lock onto a system, reserve the pod, and there will be days worth of film for you to restore." to grade. And you'd walk in and you never knew what you're going to get. It could be from the 1940s. It could be from 2008, anything in between. And I spent like every single spare waking hour in that facility. If I wasn't on Sunday, game days doing that Dailies game day shift, I was restoring film all the time, which taught me a lot also.
Now, is there a certain type of like brand standard for NFL films to like upgrade these these files to, like these scans? Is there a particular look that you're going for? Like, yeah, obviously you want to clean up some stuff and give it some life, but when you're coloring that much footage, what are you color grading it to? Like, there's got to be some kind of NFL like color standard, right?
Well, so the training for that is kind of on the job, and you sink or swim. They definitely have more of a polished, like I'd say, brand look like now. And there was a show LUT that you would work with, and you grade behind the LUT and then in front of the LUT based on the workflow for Sundays. When it was restoring the film, it was just, it was really a game of color correction, which isn't very sexy or romantic as like the term color grading. But there was a lot of stuff to fix. You get some film and you're like, oh, I got something from the 60s. And like, I don't know, something's wrong. It's pink. It's pink as hell. I got to fix this. And like being in a position where like, okay, well, like I have my primaries, I have my RGB mixer, I have my printer points. I'm going to actually like correct this footage. And one of the rules were, especially on the Sunday game day shifts and when you were restoring film, you were only allowed to use primary color tools. That's it. No windowing, no secondaries, no curves, nothing fancy. If you can't do it with basic primary tools, then you can't do it. And if you can't do it, then you can't hang. And if you can't hang, they'll let you go. So you're kind of like forced to like work the old way. And it was like an opportunity to, again, through that practice and through the mentorships of all the colorists around me, figure it out and find a way to make it work. And the stories, one of the guys that worked there was like, worked at like the original Company 3, like when it was when they started out. And, a lot of these guys hop between post houses all over the place. So it was a great experience to learn from. So
when you're kind of coloring all that footage and you're just kind of going clip after clip, like what puts you in that creative flow? I know we were at a event last week and somebody brought up like with that creative flow that you get into. How do you get into your creative flow when you're doing stuff? Do you have a process? Do you kind of lock everything else off, like shut the door, like put phones away? Like how do you kind of get into that creative space mentally?
When I'm grading, I always listen to music, like always. Yeah. I'll pause it if I need to. So every now and then you get something where there's a sound cue or some editorial sound cue that will require you to listen to make better decisions on the color or effects or like online editing side. For the most part, I either have speakers blaring or I got my headphones on and I'm just like listening to music, and you reach that flow state. And the great thing about color grading with a panel is that with the right workflow, you are not touching a mouse and keyboard like 99% of the time. You really don't need to. If you have a good panel and you understand where all the shortcuts are and you understand how to work the panel. And the synchronization between hardware and software, does the job with some music, and you're just zoned in and you're not even looking down at the panel. You're just going and you just start flying.
So how did you get into the, I mean, obviously doing color and stuff when you were a lot younger and working on projects, and color's been a strong, I don't want to say obsession, but a strong love of yours. How did you get into this point at NFL Films? What was kind of your career structure to kind of get to that point?
Yeah, well, my first job is I actually worked at Blackmagic Design as a DaVinci Resolve product specialist. And I worked there from 2015 to 2019. And I was originally hired to drive a demo van, a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter demo van up and down the East Coast. And I did that for a while. And then that's when I realized like my love for demos and like giving demos, making and doing demos. And then I became a spokesperson, and then I got closer to the product and the marketing orgs, and grew my career at Blackmagic from there. But I think I was able to leverage that position when I applied for the job at NFL Films, when I saw it, and then someone reached out and called me, and then I put two and two together, and I was like, look, I'm hungry. I will be a colorist. I know the software really, really well, and and I'm local. I'm right nearby. I'm right next door. I'm like 10 minutes away. And they were like, great, come on in. Got the interview and I was hired. But I was burning the candle at three ends when I worked at Blackmagic, because I was there because I wanted to be a colorist. So I was like, oh, maybe I don't have to be a runner at a post house. By the time I realized I wanted to be a colorist, I was already like way older. I was like, I physically like can't afford, like a near minimum wage position at the time. And I had no like support financially from anywhere else. I was on my own. So I was like, oh, this is what I'll do. I'm going to work at Blackmagic, and I'm going to be able to walk into any post house in the country, do resolve demos, capture feedback from the teams, deliver that feedback, gain friendships, gain mentorships. Just watch. Like one day I just sat in and I watched Tom Poole color for like a whole day. And I just watched him move. And he had a bug complaint because his hands were so fast, the panel wasn't responding fast enough to how fast his hands were. And he was showing me. And I was like, how the hell do you do that? So
it's like a gunslinger from the old West, and they go,
really,
and you're like, whoa.
Really was though, right? Yeah. So doing stuff like that. And then I was at Blackmagic and NFL, but I also ran a color boutique out of my apartment. My wife and I, we were dating at the time. We had this apartment at the corner of Broad and Spring Garden in Philly, in this really big, tall tower. And it looked like a big, proper, fancy building with a really fancy lobby. And we realized if you walk into the apartment, if you walk to the left, it's apartment, but the kitchen was right there. And if you walk to the right, there's this long hallway, its own bathroom, and a really big bedroom. So I bought myself a Sony OLED, proper Sony OLED panel for like $8,000. I bought an LG OLED TV that I had calibrated by a professional guy who came out with his Klein probes and made everything match.
Yep.
And painted the walls gray. Got some really good lighting. Got a mini fridge, stocked it up with fancy stuff, had some client services, and I called it Good Grades. And it was the only real serious color house in Philly for a few years. So I was doing Blackmagic, working at NFL, and running this post boutique. And as the resume started growing and as more clients came in, I was grading segments for The Daily Show. I was doing campaigns for major sports teams, other major brands. And because I was just a little bit cheaper but serious and had an okay reputation that I was building up, I would go up to New York and I would day play in post houses, filling in for people in New York. And then I would find more clients in New York and I would poach work from folks in New York, because I'm like, hey, I'm remote, I'm local, I'm down here in Philly. I use Frame.io for everything, and I can, I used Frame.io as like the backbone infrastructure for my entire like small business, and through that I was doing those three jobs at the same time. And then I got the call from Warner Media. They offered me a job as a senior colorist, and I moved down to Atlanta for a few years and just did that.
So what got you out of color?
A app very near and dear to both of our hearts called Frame.io. One of my marketing mentors from Blackmagic had moved over to run marketing at Frame. And at that time, I had my chair at Warner Media, and I was working on, documentary series for HBO Max one day. And the next day you're doing a show for Turner Classic Movies, major ad campaigns for March Madness for NBA TV and NCAA, and stuff for, grading weird infomercials for Adult Swim and things like that. And just serving all of the Turner networks and HBO and stuff for Warner Media. And I was like, okay, I'm going to die in this chair. I'm going to work here for 35 years and then retire. Because like, you got a job like this, like you don't leave it. And then my old mentor comes out of the blue and says, hey, you like Frame, right? And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm obsessed with Frame. He's like, hey, you're a product marketer. We didn't call you that at Blackmagic, but you are one. So you should come here, interview. And if you get in, leave your job, join the circus, come be a product marketer. We'll show you. That was the real crisis of faith. And that was a really hard decision to make. Because I thought at the time I would interview as a lark, and then they'd call me and maybe I'd get an offer, but I would use that offer as leverage at my Warner Media job, maybe like get a raise, or like, hey, I want you to buy me that $30,000 Sony HDR monitor, buy me that monitor, I'll stay. I thought that's what was going to happen. It's not what happened at all. My boss, my creative director, knew that like the company would not, like they don't roll like that.
Yeah.
Okay, bye, is what they said. So I was in this situation. My whole identity as a human being was tied into being a colorist. If I wasn't a colorist, what was I? I was nothing. Everything I ever struggled for since I was a kid led to this job where I had a creative life and I led a creative life and I had a creative career. And now I was going to be a product marketing manager.
Yeah.
And I had a really hard time grappling with that. And I thought about it for a long time. I remember I was like sobbing in my kitchen with my wife, and she was trying to like comfort and console me. And I'm just like, I think I might have just made the biggest mistake of my life. I just threw my entire career in the trash can. I don't know what I did. And I had like 24 hours to choose to accept the offer or turn the offer down. And my boss was like, hey, like, listen, like, no hard feelings. Like, you don't have to leave. You can, everything's good. This happens all the time. We're not going to give you what you want, but you can stay, like you're not going anywhere. You're, blah, blah, blah. So I was thinking, and I was like, I can't leave that job behind because I have a creative life and I worked so hard for my creative life and my creative career. And then I thought, okay, so like this product marketing job, like what is it? It's representing the voice of the customer. It's writing messaging and positioning and go-to-market strategy. It's managing product launches. It's everything that I loved about what I did at Blackmagic, but instead of just being the guy that does the talk, I get to be the guy that actually helps make the plans and helps make the launch what it is and help provide feedback that helps, grow the app and grow the business. And I thought of myself again as that like scared 19-year-old kid who had just dropped out of college and didn't know how he was going to make a living, let alone make a living being creative somehow.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I can help impact the growth and the storytelling of a beloved app that helps millions of people tell better stories and connect with one another and make better art, and I get to be at the cross intersection of that across all departments, helping make that happen, what could be more creative than that? And I got out of my own head and I realized that my definition of creativity was very, very limited with tunnel vision into a specific type of creative output. So the next day I called my boss and I said, thank you, I'm going to take the job. 2 weeks later, I started at Frame with absolutely no knowledge of formal product marketing, no MBA, no connections, no marketing education of any at all. And another sink or swim situation where I almost sank, but swam. And the rest of the story. A year later, we were acquired by Adobe. Mm-hmm. I stayed on the Frame.io team for a couple more years. And then two and a half years ago, I moved over to Premiere and After Effects. And I got to tell you, it was the best decision I ever made was to become a product marketing manager, because I get to be a storyteller, and it's going all the way back to what I said about when I was a kid and I wanted to be a filmmaker. You want to tell stories. That's what this is. In what way, in what avenue do you channel your storytelling? Yeah. That's what everything is. And I thought at first it was through like directing and filmmaking. And then I thought it was through the art and science of color grading. And now I realize I'm a product storyteller. I tell stories about products and I create launches and I impact and influence the roadmap. And I represent the voice of the customer through ideation to development to launch and then analysis as a key stakeholder for the growth of the business. And it is the most fun, amazing job in the entire world. And I wouldn't want to be doing anything else right now. So it all worked out despite the challenges. And I still get to color every now and then. I have a couple clients. I grade 5 Below commercials every now and then. There's a couple agencies in Philly and New York that call me up out of the blue every now and then for a gig here and there. So I get to flex that creative muscle. And it's wonderful.
So if you were to tell someone that is kind of going through a similar creative journey, what would maybe be one thing you would tell them?
Get over any fear of asking for help. The only way things work out is if you openly and actively ask for help, because it turns out people want to help other people. People want to guide other people. Mm-hmm. And you don't get anywhere by not asking and thinking you can do everything yourself. That's silly. And then also, don't let anyone ever define you or tell you what you can or cannot do or tell you what you are or aren't capable of. Because at the end of the day, most people are capable of doing most things, short of representing someone in the court of law or doing spinal surgery or something like that. For the most part, most people can do most things. If you have passion and a thirst to learn and a growth mindset and an insistence that you can get yourself from A to B come hell or high water, then there's pretty much nothing you can't do. You just have to remember to ask for help and to not let anyone define you. Only you get to define you.
We talked a little bit about NFL Films and the color work that you've done there. And, obviously working at Adobe, you've got your hands on a lot of product marketing stuff. Is there any call out projects that you have that you've done at Adobe that you're happy and excited about?
Well, there are a ton of Frame.io and Premiere and After Effects, launches and marketing moments that I'm very proud of. But the one that I'm proudest of the most is the one that we did very recently, which was the release of Color Mode in Premiere Beta, which is available now for everyone to try. Download Premiere Beta and try Color Mode. The thing about color, going back to my story, I spent years and years and years figuring out how to get good at it. Color is a non-negotiable. Color is something that every video editor has to tackle. Mm-hmm. But it normally isn't something that you do with fondness. Normally it's something you deal with. And that's because there haven't ever really been really amazing color tools made for editors before until now. Editors have had an impossible choice when it comes to color for the past 10, 15 years. Your choices are you settle for tools that might not get you all the way, tools that don't really allow you to turn your imagination into a reality because you hit some kind of limitation. And then there's tools that weren't made for you, tools that were designed decades ago I should say tools that are designed for specialists, people who do color full time, like the person I used to be, people who charge hundreds or thousands of dollars an hour to sit in the dark room and have spent 10, 20,000 hours banging away at the panels, who just know how to, just like the folks at NFL. But the thing is, color should be accessible and approachable. And while the technology for color grading between any software you could pick, the software has been democratized for a really long time. Anyone can get their hands on software and do some color grading. But the craft, the action of color grading, I don't think the craft of color grading has truly been democratized until now since we've launched Color Mode. What it does is it allows any video editor to turn that imagination into a reality. We have this brick wall in between your taste and your ability to execute that taste, right? Editors know color. Editors have an eye for color. But there's a difference between having taste and the ability to execute it, right? Mm-hmm. So what Color Mode is a taste execution system, if you will, for video editors to be able to go all the way farther than they've ever wanted to go. And if you're a dedicated video editor with years of experience and color is your jam and you love color no matter where you do it, then Color Mode is going to help you make way more nuanced, creative, confident decisions, right? With more trust. And if you're new to color, this system is going to teach you how to color as you use it. If you're really getting into your own when it comes to video editing. Yeah. But at the end of the day, editors have to do everything. They have to cut, they have to mix sound, they have to manage clients, they have to manage media, and they have to color. So somewhere along the way, across the decades of very complex color tools, color became something that an editor moved to instead of something that moves with the editor. And what we did is we went on a mission to change that. So about, more than almost 3 years ago, Alexis Van Herkman, who, if you're not familiar with the name, he wrote the book on color correction and color grading, the Color Correction Handbook. I worked with him many places over the years. Alexis had this crazy vision for a new way to do color that's never been done before. Mm-hmm. And it was greenlit, and we've been building it for the past 2 to 3 years. We've been building it for the past 2 to 3 years. And now it's finally out for users to try. And I'm just really passionate and excited about it because I'd get so many jobs as a colorist where I'd get a call last minute from a new client and they'd be like, hey, we got your name from so-and-so. We've got this project. due tomorrow, it's due in 2 days. The editor is really trying, right? They're trying it here, they're trying it there. They just can't get it, right? And it's always happy to get those last minute jobs because, it's a job. But I always think about the editors. They do so much. And as editors, we are in charge for like telling this whole story. Every beat, every cut, every emotionally resonant point in a story, whether it's a reel that you watch twice in a row without even realizing it, or whether it's a movie or a TV show or anything in between. We're responsible as editors for like really putting the story together. Color is an extremely important part of that process. Yeah. Not only from a technical standpoint, but creatively, we live in a world now where you can shoot and log on nearly any camera and augment what is there, shape and remold and relight the clips, add creative tonality that never existed before, whether it's with you as a solo practitioner or with a team of other artists. And color grading has always been that missing piece of the puzzle, that if you wanted to get good at it, you had to either accept tools that maybe, again, like didn't help you get the job done all the way, or what you had to do is abandon your edit, abandon your way of thinking, abandon systems that work for you, and learn these extremely complex tools that were never made for you, were made for other people. You had to pretty much become an entire second identity for it to work, for you to actually become that colorist and adopt that colorist mindset, right? But we were thinking to ourselves, what if we made color tools that were actually built around editing, that actually put the editor first? What if you didn't have to be that second person, that second identity that defined a whole generation of video editors? What if you could just be yourself? That was the vision behind Color Mode, and that's what we built, and that's what we created. So it is a system that allows you to use bidirectional animated color controls that work the way you think in this beautiful, simple, elegant user interface that packs so much power inside of it. It allows you to create styles and looks with a single click, but unlike a LUT, you're able to dive into that look with deep customization. And we have these heads-up display scopes that pop up. When you click on a tool, the heads-up display pops up. It shows you the scope, numeric information, and real-time, like granular feedback. And through using the HUDs, every tool having a completely different bespoke HUD that shows you different feedback and information based on what you need to see. For the first time, most video editors are going to be able to actually understand what it is they're doing, Like color grading can be like playing video games. Like for me, I'm terrible at video games. When I'm playing Mortal Kombat, I just smash buttons until something happens.
Yeah, I used to just randomly hit buttons until something happened. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I won. Usually
we should play sometime and see who's better at smashing buttons. But yeah, you just smash buttons, and video editors do that a lot with just, I'll take the slider, beep, boop, bop, beep, boop, bop. And that experimentation is in some way, it can be easy to be punished, because unless you really, really know what you're doing and you take the weeks, months, years it takes to really learn an advanced, complicated color system, it's very difficult to say the least. So I've seen most video editors, out of the hundreds of video editors we worked with in private beta, in community summits, I've seen most video editors get it inside of a day or two. And I've seen most editors walk away being like, I want for nothing. This is the system that's going to allow me to actually turn what's in my brain into what I see on screen with the least amount of churn and friction and the most amount of creativity and intent and play. That's the coolest thing about Color Mode. Color Mode reintroduces this fundamental concept of play and exploration that can be woefully missing from a professional creative application. It rewards play. It rewards experimentation. It brings a joyous feeling while you're crafting the look and while you're making everything work. And we also have this, the last product thing I'll say to geek out about is something really worth geeking out about. It's a system called operations. If you think about the way you move color information and effects information, you have two choices. You can have whatever you want as long as it's layers or nodes, right? We invented a brand new third category, a third way to move color information. We call them operations. You can have operations that live at the clip level, a custom group level of custom clips, or the entire sequence. And you can just take a grade and add it on the whole sequence, or just a few clips, or just a clip. And the way it works and the way it's visualized, you see the entire order of operations across clip, group, and sequence from start to finish in one view. You can drag and drop bubbles. So if you color grade a clip and you decide this clip looks great, I want it on the whole sequence, no more copy and pasting attributes. No more deep fried clips with 6 or 7 effects layered on top of them. You can just take a clip operation, drag it, and bloop, drop it on the sequence. And then every clip magically color graded. But nothing is copied or pasted, nothing is duplicated. You're able to simply instruct Premiere where to move the color. So that's color mode. Check out the Adobe Video YouTube channel. We have tons of training content. We have lots of really interesting videos that tell you more about color mode. So check out YouTube, and I'm making a ton of color mode tutorials on my channels as well. So check that out too. It's one of the most creative platforms that's ever been made for video editors, and I was very, very proud to be a small part of that journey over the past 3 years, helping to make it and to put it in the market.
It seems like there's 3 major parts to this. There's, I'm speaking as, you, Jason, as an individual creator. It's you as a creator or creative themselves. It's you as somebody who understands process, and it's you that understands marketing. How much did you pull from each of those knowledge bins to, incorporate that into this tool or this new launch?
That's a great question. It's weird because launching color mode really pulled together every bit of professional experience I've ever had throughout my entire career. From being the scared kid who didn't know what he was going to do for a living, to figuring out how to color and just insisting that I'm going to figure out a way to get it done, to working for like more than 10 years as a proper pro colorist, and then everything I've learned across the last 4 or 5 years of proper product marketing work, and it all kind of vortexed together, and it culminated together to craft a lot of the messaging and the strategies and the way in which we talk about it. And again, like the takeaway and the feeling that we want people to feel when they learn about it. Because the truth is, Adobe's had Lumetri for a very long time. Say what you will about Lumetri, they're okay tools, but we know it always left users wanting for more. And we created a situation where users had to choose to go somewhere else because there was literally no other option. There was no other recourse to get the color you wanted or needed. And it's such an important part of the process of how you make your stories and you tell your art. And there's just this huge gaping hole in the offering and in the market. So, a lot of video editors over the past 10 years, they felt they had no choice. I have no choice but to create that second identity for myself and put myself through all of this friction and tension and churn to get my timeline from one app to another app, or to think differently and to think extremely scientifically and mathematically about, all the complex things that it takes to do color in some other places. And to tell a story that we actually made color grading tools that were made for video editors, that we invented new ways of doing color that have never been done before, to say that we finally built a system that understands you and will let you express yourself creatively at the very highest end of the spectrum, as deep as you could possibly want to go, and that you'll be able to do it easier and faster with more clarity and confidence than ever. That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of users, because they've been the ones in this world experiencing this paradigm. So to introduce a paradigm shift and to say there's a different way now, there's new ways, newly invented ways, and to honestly at the end of the day, eat some humble pie and be open and honest and vulnerable about the realities of what color grading has been for video editors for the past 10, 15 years. Telling a story that can get all of that across by talking about the magic and the value and the joy and the play of digging into this new system and realizing I can learn this thing in 1 or 2 days, not weeks or months. I can learn it in a day or two. and have everything I need and everything I want, knowing that there's this enormous investment in infrastructure to keep growing the system month over month, year over year, is yeah, it's an honor. And it took every single bit of everything I've ever learned and every part of my career, along with the absolute best product teams, the best engineering teams, the best design teams, and the best marketing teams in the world I've ever worked with. You know, it's a really amazing, tight-knit team, an amazing organization of people spread across the globe who actually built the tools. It's amazing. And it took, for all of us, it took everything we had to get it out there.
Well, I think, I mean, that's amazing. I appreciate you breaking all that down. There's so much to digest and take in there, but I just think the most amazing part of this is the fact that, like, the start of your career was, you know, what am I going to do? I want to be a movie maker, to going across the board and influencing a product that a lot of filmmakers use. And now you're kind of changing how they're going to process yet another part of their video, which color, I absolutely agree. It's a very important part of a video, but I don't know, the spectrum of that, of, you know, if you told yourself, your younger self back then, like, you're going to influence a product in such a way that you are now, it's probably a moment where you kind of pinch yourself a little bit, I'm sure.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah. It's a crazy road and a crazy ride. And I could have tried to roll the dice a million different ways and it wouldn't have ended up the way it ended up working out. But it is a real pinch me moment. And I told my manager this, and I tell people this, but every time I do a product launch or I write messaging or I try to influence the app, I think about that scared 19-year-old version of myself who didn't know what the hell he was going to do with his life, who dropped out of college, was living in his parents' house again, and had absolutely no prospects and nowhere to go, but a desire to dig myself out of a hole and find a way to be creative by any means necessary. And I think about that scared kid, that old version of myself, every time I do a launch, and I try to imagine someone like me sees a story about something that gets them excited, and they decide to try it, and a spark lights. That's what we try to do every time, because all we want to do is tell stories that make people better creators and better artists.
This is the point in the show where I like to ask my guest where they want to go creatively. What's in the future of Jason Druss? Where are we going?
Well, the content creation is something that I'm really, like, throwing myself into, and I find myself back to my geeky days of teenagehood, where I'm buying lights, and I'm buying better cameras and better lenses, and I'm trying to figure out how to make the best short form stories possible across all the areas that I want to work in. And there's a lot happening at Adobe right now that I'm thrilled to be a part of. But also on the AI side, I'm very, very interested in building systems and tools that not only make my job easier and more productive, but tools and systems that can help other people as well. One of the tenets of product marketing is taking an extremely complex product or workflow or feature and boiling it down to its most simple essence so that it can be packaged into a story across dozens of channels, across hundreds or thousands of pieces of collateral, so that any kind of person can take a look at that story and absorb it through however they interact with it and understand it and feel an emotional resonance and have a key takeaway and, you know, have a little bit of, like, hope or joy that some problem in their life can be solved by what you're storytelling, and coming up with systems that can help amplify in a number of different ways in a number of different areas. I'm very interested in, and that's been at the core of a lot of the research I've been doing on the AI side lately. And hopefully sometime soon I'll have something to show.
Jason, I really appreciate you sharing your creative journey I do want to ask though, are we gonna continue to see more content on Instagram and the social feeds? Are you still gonna kind of give us some good nuggets here?
Oh yeah, I'm never gonna stop doing that. I'm addicted to it now. Like it's a hobby. Like it's my hobby now. I'm absolutely obsessed with making content. And if no one watched it, that's totally fine. I love making it, and so I'm just gonna keep on making it. And hopefully find ways to grow into making different kinds of content.
Do you ever have a tough time between like balancing the line between like Jason Druss as the person versus Jason Druss as a marketing person? Like, do you feel like there's a line there? Do you feel like you're, because I kind of fall into that. Some of my videos are very product and company focused, but then some stuff I do is more personal and more fun. Do you feel like you have a tough time as a marketer coming off as a genuine creator?
No. I don't really. I think because again, going back, like, no one can define me except for me. Right. And I was a colorist, and I make a lot of videos about like video editing and tutorials about, like being creative and making cool stuff. But I'm also going to make videos for the person who, doesn't have an MBA and wants to get out of their job and wants to move into tech or wants to move into a different kind of career. And I've done that career pivot a couple times in my life. So I want to make videos about that to help those people and to share some advice that I've learned along the way. And all therein can exist together, and there's no rules. That's the most important thing. There are laws, but there are no rules. You can really do whatever you want. And if you stick to your authentic self and you just keep going and keep making things, you will find your weird people, and you will find your tribe, and you will find the people who are picking up what you're putting down and who dig what you're doing. So I'm just making stuff until I find my tribe of weirdos.
Isn't it fun when you find a group of people that you just kind of click and work with, especially when you collaborate on stuff? I just feel like it changes the whole game. And it really, like, the collective journey creatives make, as a colorist, from a director to a DP, like everything that just kind of comes together to make a singular project. I can't say there's probably a better feeling in the world. I'm, at least that's my perspective.
No, there is. There's no better feeling than knowing that you made something, and there's no better feeling than a job well done. Whether it was seeing the look on a client's face when like something they've been working on for years had finally like come together, and you hand them the files, and that's it. Your documentary is done. Or whether it's going to a giant trade show like NAB, and you walk around the booth and you see like 100 people, and they're all like telling the story that you and your team wrote, and you're all there together, seeing the looks on users' faces as they see this new workflow, and all of a sudden they know something now is possible that they didn't think was possible before, and now they can go home and practice something creative that they didn't think they were capable of the previous day. Mm-hmm. The feeling of a job well done is probably the most satisfying thing in the entire world.
Well, I love it. I love your story. Every time you and I talk about color, you always make me excited to explore and want to like learn more about it. So your creative journey as a colorist, but not only that, as a DP, as a product marketer, you are fantastic at what you do. And I'm so glad you got to share your story with us, man. It's always fun to kind of hear creative journeys, and this one's definitely a unique one. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And hopefully we get to make some cool stuff together sometime soon too. Another Insufferable Film Bros.
I think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Jason.
Podcast, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. I always like to end each one of my podcasts going, what's your render time? We'll see you again soon.